Hey guys! Hope everybody's having a good day and having fun out there. The book we're going to read today is a new genre, biography genre. Biography is a book about a real person, and you learn facts about their life, or in this case, a real animal. This one is called Owney, the Male Pouch Pooch. The author is Mona Kirby, and the pictures are by Lynn Barash. So let's learn about this real dog in our biography. In the year 1883, on a cold, rainy October night in Albany, New York, a straggly terrier mutt wandered through the empty streets looking for a place to get out of the rain. He was so skinny, his ribs stuck out. Why do you think his ribs stuck out? I think he's not getting enough to eat. At the post office, the back door was open a crack, and the dog squeezed inside. It was warm and dry. He came to a pile of canvas bags. He sniffed around until he found just the right spot, where he circled twice and curled up and went to sleep. The next morning, workers found the mutt on the mail pouches. He gave a mean, low-pitched growl. Can you make a growl? The man talked to the dog and asked his name. The mutt glared. He sniffed, but he didn't bite. He seemed to like the smell of their blue wool uniforms. Days passed. The dog didn't leave, and no one came looking for him. So the men cleaned him up and gave him a name. They called him Owney. Owney settled in at the Albany post office. He patrolled the mail room, nosing out trouble. Rats and cats didn't stand a chance. He supervised the men as they sorted and bagged the letters. Different men took Owney home, thinking that he might want a family. But Owney wasn't interested. Each time he made his way back to the post office and to his mail pouches. Did he want to stay at someone's house? He liked the post office. In the afternoon, when the man loaded the outgoing mail on the wagon, Owney stood guard. He hopped aboard for the ride to the train depot. With his ears up and his nose to the wind, he was alert for any danger. Once, when the men returned to the post office with incoming mail, they discovered they were missing a mail pouch. What's more, Owney was missing too. One man headed back to the train depot, and he found that missing mail pouch. Owney was sitting right on top of it. When the man tried to get the bag, Owney growled. He showed his teeth. He didn't give it up. The worker was out of his uniform. Owney was not about to turn over government property to just anybody. The man raced back to the office, where he grabbed a canvas bag and located a friend with a uniform. Together they went back to the depot and found Owney still guarding the U.S. mail. The men walked slowly up to Owney. He sniffed the bag. He sniffed the legs of the blue uniform. He lowered his ears, wagged his tail, and hopped off the pouch. After that, his pals bought him an efficient-looking collar with a tag that read, Owney, Post Office, Albany, New York. He was being a good dog, guarding that mail. A few weeks later at the depot, as the train started pulling away, Owney chased after it. Running lickety-split, he leaped and landed in the mail car. The Albany men were sad. The train crew waved their hats. They were glad to have Owney aboard. All the way to New York City, Owney sat in the open doorway, seeing new sights and sniffing new smells. The Albany postman looked for Owney on the next train from New York, and the next, and the train after that. Days and weeks went by, but Owney didn't return. Several months later, the Albany postmen were at the train depot when, lo and behold, Owney jumped off the train. His friends asked him where he had been, but he just wagged his tail. After that, the men tied a note to his collar. "Dear Railway Postman, Owney guards the U.S. mail. Will you let us know where he has been? Please attach your depot tag to his collar." It wasn't long before Owney hopped on another train. The next time Owney showed up in Albany, he had so many tags hanging from his collar he could barely lift his head. The postal employees tried to remove some of them to make his load lighter, but Owney didn't like that. He growled. So his pals bought a harness that stretched across his back and around his chest. They spread his silver and brass medals all over his body instead of just under his neck. It made it easier for him to walk. Owney liked that fine. Do you know where all those medals came from? He gets a tag from each post office he visits in different towns. Owney took off again, crisscrossing the country on the mail trains. He visited New York City, Brooklyn, Boston, Augusta, Maine. He saw Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Fort Wayne. He traveled to Chicago, St. Paul, Duluth, the Dakota Territory, Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. In Texas, he inspected Fort Worth, Waco, San Antonio, Houston, and Galveston. He hopped a train to Denver, Kansas City, Omaha, Memphis, New Orleans, Key West, Washington, D.C., and Baltimore. And Owney stopped at all the small towns in between. Some say he even inspected the trains and depots in Alaska, Canada, and Mexico. He went a lot of different places on those trains, didn't he? Owney guarded the mail and the men in their blue wool uniforms. If a railway man fell asleep when it was time to pitch or pick up a pouch, Owney barked him awake. In those days, there were lots of train wrecks. But no train ever had an accident when Owney was on board. Railroad crews called him Good Luck Dog. Owney not only picked up tags from railway postmen, he also collected trinkets and coupons. Some read, "To his dog ship. Owney, call again. Good for 25 cents in furniture. 1 quart milk in Nashville, Tennessee. Good for 1 drink or cigar from Reno, Nevada." Owney, of course, didn't smoke cigars. He just wanted the trinkets. He loved the jingling sound his medals made when he walked. Not everybody welcomed Owney. In Montreal, Canada, the dog catchers threw him in the pound. Then they wrote to the postal employees in Albany and demanded $2.50. Owney's pals paid the fine, and Owney was put on the next train home. No dog worked harder for the U.S. Postal Service. In 1892, Owney greeted the Republicans at their convention in Buffalo, New York. In 1893, He met with the Iowa bankers in Council Bluff, Iowa. In 1895, he welcomed the chicken farmers at the Tacoma, Washington Poultry Association. But Owney was beginning to slow down. He was at least 8 years old, which is old for a dog, especially one that has spent his lifetime jumping on and off trains. His friends decided to give him a trip around the world by mail boat. He had his own suitcase, blanket, comb, and brush. Before Owney could travel, his pals had to make up a new mailing rate. They called it Registered Dog Package, and they attached his note to his harness. To all who may meet this dog, Owney is his name. He is the pet of 100,000 postal employees of the United States of America. Treat him kindly. On August 19th, 1895, Owney boarded the steamship Victoria in Tacoma, Washington. Where's he going now? He's going on a ship. Since the mail was in no danger of falling off the boat, Owney didn't have to spend all his time supervising. He chased rats, and in the afternoon he curled up on a mail pouch. In a way, he was still doing his job. When the ship arrived in Japan, the custom officials didn't know what to do with the traveling dog. They issued Owney a special passport. He was not allowed to ride a horse through a fire. He could not rent a house. He could not scribble on buildings. Owney obeyed. After all, he was a U.S. postal employee. From Japan, Owney went to China and then Hong Kong. While his shipboard pals rode on rickshaws, Owney followed behind, keeping his eye on everything. He sailed up the Suez Canal, but he didn't get to stay long enough in Egypt to see the pyramids. He sailed into the harbor of Algiers on the Mediterranean Sea and to São Miguel in the Azores Islands in the Atlantic Ocean. Wow, he got to go a lot of places. Would you like to travel the world like that? It'd be pretty fun. And finally, he arrived back in New York City. Owney finished his world trip his favorite way, by train. On December 29th, 1985, he arrived back in Tacoma, Washington. His trip lasted 132 days. He wore 200 new tags, trinkets, and ribbons. He had gained 6 pounds. In 1896, at the San Francisco Dog Show, surrounded by fancy-looking dogs and their fancy owners, 2 postal employees stood at attention. One wore a blue wool uniform, the other his natural fur. The judge presented Owney with a medal, Greatest Dog Traveler in the World. In the spring of 1897, when the National Association of Railway Clerks invited Owney to their convention in San Francisco, he took one last trip. By now, he was missing some teeth, and he was blind in one eye. Stiff-legged, he could no longer catch the moving trains. In the huge auditorium, the curtains opened. Owney walked to the center of the stage. He was slow, but he still jingled with every step, and his shiny tags sparkled in the spotlight. The crowd leapt to their feet, roaring. For 15 minutes they cheered, they clapped, and they whistled. After that, there was only one thing to do. Owney had to retire. His pals sent him home to the Albany post office, where his career as a mail dog had begun. He was given plenty to eat and a soft mail pouch where he could curl up and fall asleep. Sometimes, on those long sleepy afternoons, his nose twitched and his paws quivered. Maybe Owney was dreaming about the good old days of running lickety-split to catch a train and travel the world. And right here you can see a photograph of the real dog, Owney. You see him there on the train with the post office workers. And on the back cover, here's another good picture of him. That's what Owney looked like. So that was a biography, a true story about a person's life or an animal's life. See you next time. Have a great day.